I was standing in my kitchen with the late afternoon light spilling across the counter when I heard fabric rustle, then footsteps, then voices. My mother didn't mean to leave the call open. I'd only dialed to ask my dad a simple question about a missing tax form, something so small it shouldn't have shifted the entire axis of my life. My father's voice first. Then my mother's. Clear. Familiar. Unfiltered. "She's always been a burden," my mom said. My hand froze inside the drawer I was searching through. "Always," my father agreed with a sigh. "Once we're back, we'll talk to her about transferring the house. We need security for our retirement. Bella will sign, she always does." A hollow ringing filled my ears. They hadn't hung up. They were still talking. And they had no idea I was hearing every word. My mother's chuckle drifted through the speaker. "If she resists, guilt will work. She's soft. And if that doesn't work, remind her what we've done for her. She owes us." My breath stilled. My knees went weak. Then my father delivered the final blow. "She was a burden the day she was born." A pause. Laughter. Both of them. I didn't hang up. I didn't speak. I didn't gasp or cry. I simply stood there, one hand gripping the drawer, the other holding the phone, while my entire childhood rearranged itself inside me. When the call finally dropped, the silence felt violent. Growing up, I learned quickly that affection in my house was conditional, given in teaspoons and snatched away in storms. We lived in a narrow, aging home in a low-income suburb. My dad, Rob, worked at the auto shop. My mom, Linda, worked part-time at a dentist office. The walls were thin, the fights were loud, and love was measured by how much guilt you could swallow without choking. "Be grateful we keep a roof over your head," my dad would bark every time I asked for anything. "You think we're made of money," my mom snapped whenever I needed shoes or school fees. But on Fridays, I escaped. After school, I walked to my grandmother's house, my real home. Grandma Rose lived across town on a quiet cul-de-sac where the grass was trimmed, the porch was wide, and the air smelled of lavender. She'd open the door with a smile warm enough to melt the week off me. "Hello, my Bella girl," she'd say, pulling me into a hug that didn't constrict or judge. In her home, there were no raised voices. No slammed cabinets. No reminders of sacrifice. She taught me how to cook, how to save money, how to plant roses, and how to love myself without strings attached. "You are not a burden," she'd whisper when I cried about my parents. "You never were." When she passed unexpectedly 3 years ago, grief tore through me. But grief wasn't the shock. The shock was her will. Grandma Rose left me her house, fully paid, worth just under $900,000. She left my parents a small amount of cash. They burned through it within weeks. And then, the resentment began. At first, my parents acted like I was selfish for not immediately offering them the house. "We're your parents," my mom said, inspecting the living room like a monarch judging a castle. "We should be here." My dad dragged his tacky old recliner into my living room and planted it there without asking. They moved in for a few weeks, but stayed for 3 years, rent-free, contribution-free, gratitude-free. They criticized my paint colors, complained about my cooking, and spoke about the house as if the deed were merely a suggestion. "This is the family home," my mom declared during dinner one night, as if the universe had written it that way. They tried to convince me to use the house's equity to fund their dream European vacation, and even though I refused to take a loan for them, guilt pushed me to pay for most of their trip anyway. They left smiling. And that brings us back to the call. The call that ended everything. For 3 days, I moved like a ghost in my own home, my grandmother's voice echoing in my mind as their cruel laughter replayed on a loop. "A burden. She'll sign anything. She owes us. The house will be ours by next year." Every sentence felt like a new bruise. By the fourth morning, pain hardened into something else. Clarity. Determination. Freedom disguised as fury. I opened my laptop and contacted an attorney I trusted. Marion Quinn, a property lawyer I'd worked with at my real estate office. I told her everything. She remained calm and professional, but her eyes darkened. "Bella," she said, "your parents have no legal claim. The house is yours entirely. If you want to remove them from your life, you can. Cleanly. Quietly. Completely." Her words became oxygen. Next, I called Eli Mendoza, a colleague who specialized in discreet sales for high-end clients. "I need to sell my house," I said. "How fast?" he asked. "As fast as legally possible." He didn't ask why. "Off-market, no signs, no listing page. I have buyers who'll go as high as 1.05 million. Perfect. I made 3 lists. Mine. Theirs. Uncertain. I boxed my belongings, labeled everything, and stored their items separately. I rented a storage unit under their names and paid 6 months in advance. Movers arrived quietly at dawn. My belongings went to a furnished apartment 2 hours away. Their belongings went to storage. The house, once signed and closed, was emptied of everything except one envelope left on the kitchen counter. I wrote only 5 words on the paper inside. "A burden did this. Enjoy." I locked the door one last time, walked down the front steps, and didn't look back. They landed on a warm Thursday afternoon, exactly at the time they'd emailed me, expecting me to pick them up. Mrs. Grant, my old neighbor, texted me the moment they pulled into the driveway. "They're home. They look happy." I imagined their laughter, their exhaustion, their excitement to dump their suitcases inside my house, the house they believed was already theirs. Then came the moment I had replayed 100 times in my mind. My father inserted his house key. Turned it. Click. Nothing. He tried again. 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 Mrs. Grant texted. "Your dad looks like he's malfunctioning. Your mom is furious. She's banging on the door." I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Minutes later, the voicemails began. "Bella. The lock isn't working. Call us back now." "Bella, honey, the house is empty. What's going on?" Then. "We found your stupid note. A burden did this? Really? You think this is funny? You can't sell our home. Expect consequences. Our home." They still said it. Even after everything. The next morning, they went to my office, causing a scene so loud my boss called security. By evening, my father called with a voice tight with rage. "Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Maple Street Cafe. If you don't show, we'll go back to your workplace." Threat noted. I arrived at 10:15 on purpose. They sat in a booth, my mother wringing her hands dramatically, my father stiff with anger. "You've embarrassed us," he snapped. "Explain yourself." I calmly placed my phone on the table. "You first," I said. My mother leaned forward, eyes wet. "Why did you sell our home?" "Your home," I repeated. My father slammed his hand on the table. "We lived there. You had no right." I pressed play. The cafe filled with their voices. "She's a burden. She'll sign anything. We'll use guilt. She owes us. The house will be ours." My mother's eyes glassed over, not with shame, but with the horror of being caught. My father's face went stark white, then red. "How dare you record us?" "You called me," I said evenly. "You forgot to hang up." Silence. A long, heavy silence only broken by clinking coffee cups and quiet chatter around us. Then I spoke the words I had waited my whole life to say. "I don't owe you anything. Not loyalty. Not money. Not explanations. You treated me like a possession, like a bank account, like a burden. I will not be used again." My mother sobbed. My father seethed. Neither apologized. "I'm done," I continued. "You will not call my workplace again. You will not come near my home. If you harass me, you'll deal with my attorney. This is not a negotiation." My father hissed. "You can't just abandon your family." I stood. "You abandoned me years ago. I'm just finally walking out the door." I left the cafe without looking back. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of them. The silence afterward was jarring at first. No midnight calls. No yelling. No guilt. No emotional blackmail. Just peace. My new townhouse in Riverton was half the size of my grandmother's home, but it was mine. Every lamp. Every plant. Every quiet morning. Therapy helped me untangle the years of manipulation. Work flourished. I slept through the night. I smiled more often without realizing it. One afternoon, while organizing books, I found a letter written in Grandma Rose's handwriting. "Never forget your worth, Bella. And never let anyone take what you have built." For the first time, I didn't cry when I read it. I smiled. The local community center invited me to teach workshops for young adults on financial boundaries and home ownership protections. Helping others navigate what I'd endured felt like planting seeds in new soil. I wasn't the burden. I was the one who broke the cycle. A year to the day after the cafe confrontation, I stood in my small backyard, watering the roses I planted in my grandmother's honor. The sun was warm. The breeze gentle. And for the first time in my life, the air felt light. I whispered toward the sky. I choose myself. And the world didn't collapse. It opened. Just like I did. Moral lessons. This story reminds us that family isn't defined by blood, but by loyalty, respect, and genuine care. Sometimes the people closest to us are the ones who underestimate us the most. But that doesn't mean their words define our worth. Bella's journey shows that you are allowed to walk away from places where you are mistreated, even if those places are called home. You don't owe anyone your peace, your stability, or your success, especially not those who try to diminish it. Your value is not determined by how others see you, but by how you choose to rebuild when life tries to break you. And remember, choosing yourself is never selfish. It's survival. It's strength. And it's the first step toward a life where you are no longer apologizing for existing, but finally living as you truly deserve. If you've ever walked away from the people who were supposed to love you but didn't know how, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments. And remember to like, subscribe, and stay for more stories.